Yo, subscribe. Check me out on Twitch. Enjoy the video. Hey guys, Aaron here. Pretty exciting news. We finally got the long foretold balance patch for this week. Yoshi has come through right on a Friday, and I'm excited to get into it. We got some good stuff in here. I've already taken a peek at a couple of things. My wish list item was fulfilled, but we will get there when we get there. So to start off with, we've got base HP reduced by 10 for everybody, and the HP per boon is reduced by 3. Everybody's feeling a little bit tanky. A lot of the characters are scaling up to some pretty high HP pools, even with very little green investment. Looking at some big offenders like Warden, Bebop even, some of these characters were at like 6,000 HP with not a lot of effort. So hopefully this will make characters feel a little less tanky. I'm sure it won't make them go down to like 4,000 HP or anything like that, but we'll probably cut it down a decent amount, especially earlier on in the game. Hopefully this will make feel a little bit weaker in lane and overall reduce a bit of tankiness, which I'm excited about. We've got some changes to Guardians. The Guardian scaling resistance changed from 75% to 50%. This is damage resistance, by the way. This is not like any specific kind of bullet resist or anything like that. So at the start of the game, Guardians take 75% less damage than they would after 12 minutes, where they take 50% increased damage. And then that's been rescaled to be plus 50% to minus 50%. So earlier on in the game, they take a little bit more damage. So you might start to see those Guardians come down a bit earlier in the game. For a while, Guardians would not uncommonly be killed before like 5 minutes. And I think that has become a bit of a rarity, and this might make this a little bit more common. They've changed some of the spawn timers in the early game, which are going to make a lot of the early game feel a little bit different. So medium neutral's initial spawn time has been reduced from 6 minutes to 5 minutes, and the breakable spawn time increased from 2 minutes to 3 minutes. So recently I made a video about how the cycles of the early game can be used to gain advantages that don't require you to get kills. The timings on that are going to be a little out of date now, which is unfortunate. And really, realistically, the only thing this is going to change is it's going to kind of break up that initial part of the game where it was like quickly stacking stuff on top of each other. So now we don't have breakables until 3 minutes, so you're not going to start doing box runs until 3 minutes. So the only objective that you can really do at 2 minutes is that small camp, and having a separate timer for the boxes will break that up a little bit. And then bringing medium neutrals from 6 minutes to 5 minutes gives us another interval where that buff spawns, and maybe instead of going for the buff, you can go for a neutral camp, like a tier 2 neutral camp, and look for that while the other team goes for buff. And then of course we'll go to the normal stuff like centers at 8 minutes and all that. But it breaks up that early game loop a little bit, so it's a little less stacked towards the beginning of a bunch of stuff happening at 2 minutes, and then kind of this break until 5 minutes, and then a bunch of stuff happening again. And now it's kind of broken up, so it's like 2 minutes a lot of stuff, 2 minutes not a lot of stuff, 3 minutes a little bit more, 5 minutes is going to be kind of a big break point now with these tier 2 camps respawning, and then kind of back to normal. So the biggest change of this whole patch, I think my prayers were heard. It's the thing that I was on my wish list, the thing that I was like, this should have probably been hot fixed. It seems very obvious, is that shrines are now invulnerable until one pair of base guardians are destroyed, which is excellent. It means you can't just walk past the base guardians and kill a shrine. Shrines are a huge advantage, and being able to just walk past the base guards and get in it made it really hard to respond in a timely fashion, especially to some of these characters that were very good at split pushing. Characters like Mirage, characters like Victor, who were really keen to go in it and just trade their lives for a shrine, especially Victor. And then the backdoor removal linger duration reduced from 20 seconds to 14 seconds. So you basically beforehand, if you clear a wave and you push that wave back, so you would think that it would take a little while for backdoor protection to kick in. It took a really long time, so a lot of times you could sneak in behind like a mid walker or something like that, and you'd have up to 20 seconds to keep shooting at the walker, which is kind of ridiculous. So they shaved that down to 14, which I think is a good change as well. Knockup durations are not affected by debuff reduction. This just seems sort of intuitive. Good change generally. They removed 2 jump paths from around the middle area of the map and point outwards to the left and the right respectively. It's a strange change. It makes it so mid is going to be where the action is at, and it's going to be a little bit harder to roam out of mid to go gank the side lanes. So I have a feeling this will change up sort of what's happening during the lane phase a little bit. I'll be curious to see how this ends up. This is going to take some time to really affect things. This is kind of a big change though. It changes how you move around the map. It changes how you move out of mid towards the side of the map, and it probably will make it so instead of those jump pads that go to the buff directly, you'll probably have to take like the jump pads that are back, which only go to the right side of the map. So your options from mid to go to the left side of the map are going to be like very limited. So I'm going to be curious to see how that's going to change sort of the beginning part of the game, and also how you move around the map. The jump pads that I say that are the ones that got moved are not actually the ones that got moved. The ones that got moved are the ones that are behind your mid guardian that only go off to the right. There should be a couple of pictures up here with them being gone. Those are the ones that are gone. It's not the ones that I say in the video. The way that you move around the map is mostly the same. It's just the safe outbound middle jump pads that have been removed. This is a great change. Sliding no longer resets sprint speed. A lot of characters would get a lot of sprint speed. Felt kind of bad to slide. Now when you slide, like you're sprinting and now you're sliding down like stairs and stuff, it won't reset your sprint speed. And that'll probably just feel nice. I like that change. This change is going to feel ugly for a lot of people who have been practicing their movement, to be honest. But movement in Deadlock has consistently been nerfed over time, as it is such a powerful mechanic that ultimately you can just practice and get better at and get large advantages in a game just by spending time working on it. I personally think that they should stop nerfing movement, but that's also because I spent a lot of time working on movement. So stamina regeneration is reduced by 25% for 5 seconds after using a wall jump, and it does not trigger when out of combat or mantling soon after. At least it's not triggered out of combat, so this isn't going to affect rotation speeds. Wall jumps were like really good at getting out of sticky situations, especially during fights, and that was one of the ways that you could sort of skill gap opponents with movement to get out of bad situations, and making it so that your stamina regeneration is reduced by 25% for 5 seconds, which is a long time after just one wall jump, is kind of a lot. Probably make it a little bit easier to chase people down, a little bit harder to run away. Bullet velocity now stacks additively rather than diminishingly. I have a feeling that if you get stuff like bullet velocity plus opening rounds plus like paradox wall, you're basically going to have hit scan guns very easily. So I'll be curious to see if that does anything besides maybe make some of the characters with slower bullets feel a little bit better when you get those velocity items, but I don't know if it would do much besides that. Medic trooper heal duration increased from 2 seconds to 4 seconds. This is a really nice change, even though the overall heal amount is the same. A lot of times if you just like went and punched a melee, like went and punched a medic creep, get that heal over 2 seconds, and it's so much healing so quickly that it was very hard to interact with. And it made it feel bad because a lot of times when you're diving and you're going to get a kill on somebody, they would heal up like instantly, and it made it so that you could not confirm kills that you otherwise might have been able to. Now when you receive multiple medic trooper orbs, the duration is added on top instead of directly stacking it. Now when you receive multiple of the medic trooper orb, the duration will be added on top rather than stacking directly. So if you pick up 4 in a row, you regen over 16 instead of 4 seconds. The healing amount you get is the same, but the regen is just slower. Again, this is like one of those things where if you pick up a bunch of orbs, you would heal so much so quickly that a lot of times you could get out of situations that probably you shouldn't have been able to get out of. I think this is overall probably a positive change. And then they increased the heal from 12 to 13% of missing HP, so they buffed the heal a little bit to compensate, which is probably fine. Overall, decent change. I like the direction that they're trying to go with how the heals work. It doesn't feel good to get a burst of healing on, if you're making a good play, it doesn't feel good when your opponent gets a burst of healing just by luck or whatever else circumstance is going on. Fixed parry FX not always matching state. Hopefully this fixes the bad feelings that people get. Sometimes the parry animation is a little bit fickle and you get parried even if it doesn't visually look like you should have been parried. So I'm hopeful that that will have fixed that, and now people will not be able to complain about getting parried anymore. I'm sure people still will, but in theory now it shouldn't be. You can't complain that the visual effects was wrong. We got some changes to some resistances for objectives. Base Guardian bullet resistance increased from 10 to 20. Shrine bullet resistance increased from 10 to 20. And Tier 2 bullet resistance increased from 25 to 35%. It'll make guns a little bit less effective against objectives. The Tier 2 bullet change is probably just to make it so that you can't take camps very freely early on. But if you just get like a monster rounds or something like that, you should be good to go on those early respawning Tier 2 camps. Probably it will just make some of these things a little bit slower to take, which is fine. I don't know if I have a strong opinion about that. Mid-boss now starts spawned at the beginning of the game. I have absolutely no idea if anybody's going to be able to put together a team comp that will be able to kill mid-boss immediately.
Everyone run over, bro. Everyone run over.
Run. Come in.
Let's go mid.
I got more where that came
Interesting start to the patch here.
The bones will protect us.
Better hurry up, bro.
But it'd be really funny if somebody did, and otherwise this probably doesn't change anything. I mean, most teams are going for mid-boss somewhere, usually at least after 15 minutes. I would be surprised if anybody picks up a cheese strat that allows you to get through the mid-boss early enough in the game for this to be relevant, but maybe somebody does. Most of the time, spawn timers are also too short for anybody to get any kind of crazy mid-boss off early. Total damage reduction buffs now stack diminishingly rather than additively, so inhibitor, fire scarabs, silencer, stuff like that, instead of like stacking up so that you would be like doing minus 75% damage or something like that. They only, they'll diminish it. So if you get a plus 25 and a plus 25, it might only be like 30% or probably more like 40% or something like that instead of 50%. They don't give us the exact math for what the change is, but it's just not additive anymore. So it'll hopefully feel less bad to have a bunch of damage reduction debuffs on top of you at one time. Move speed diminish point increased from 11 to a 12, very slightly less aggressive diminishing scaling. So you might be able to move around the map a little bit faster. I don't know if this will be noticeable or not, hard to say. Just buy curse. If you just buy curse, then you're gonna get if you just buy curse, you're gonna end up with a 45 spirit power buff, for example, which is pretty nice. So just buying a 6.4k is pretty nice. Probably overall a fine change. It might make it feel a little bit better to not just end up with a spike and build a little more evenly into categories. Fixed various item barrier durations, not scaling with duration increases. I didn't even know that was a thing, but that's good. Walkers will interrupt a rocket barrage during the 1 second windup if stomp becomes an option. So you can probably bait stomps instead of getting all of the rocket like tar fire on the ground that's really annoying to deal with. So it'll probably make taking walkers feel a little bit better, as that was probably the most annoying thing to deal with. You can just bait the stomp, get the stomp out, and then hopefully reduce the number of shots it shoots out. I don't know. Fixed a bug where walkers were spinning while lasering. Smooth zipline grabbing to fix some jitter. Added ropes to the zipline biting. So player rebound zipline is something other than space. It will also apply to mounting, dismounting ropes. This is going to be annoying for me personally because I have a changed zipline bind and I don't want to have to press that to go up ropes. It'll probably take a little bit of work, but I guess it's fine. I'll just have to figure it out. Remove delay on ziplines when using alternate keybinds. This is nice. There is a little small delay, which is probably the biggest reason not to use an alternate keybind, but getting that removed pretty much gets rid of it. I would recommend to anybody to rebind the zipline key to not be your spacebar, as it will prevent you from literally ever getting into a situation where you accidentally are looking too far up, hit spacebar, and get stunned off the zipline immediately during a team fight or something like that. I would recommend this to anybody. It'll happen to you once, and you'll be like, wow, that was stupid. I'm an idiot. And then you're going to die from it, and then you're going to be like, oh, that Zero Lorn guy was onto something. Change your zipline key. It's easy. Takes like 10 games to get used to, if that. Fix the following abilities, taking out of zoom temporarily when cast. A whole bunch of abilities that apparently took you out of zoom when you cast them, which is fine. That's probably a reasonable change. And then they fix the following items and abilities not working through Veils: Heroic Aura, Healing Right, Healing Nova, Rescuing, Divine Berry, Kudzu Connection, Cube, Tag Along, Little Helpers, Guardian Ward, Scourge, Plot Armor. It will make it so much nicer to be a support player. As somebody who plays a lot of support and who plays support for my team very regularly, one of the most annoying things in the game is when people are behind Veils and you can't rescue beam them, or if they're behind Veils, you can't like help them in any way. You can't give them a divine barrier or cube them or anything. This makes this like 1 million times easier and just a non-issue. I think this is a great change. Soul Urn. So this is, they've got some, I don't know, they got some interesting changes with Soul Urn. I'll tell you what. Let's get into it. So Soul Urn. We're experimenting with an alternate set of earn mechanics. If you've been playing Deadlock for a long time, this is not your first rodeo with alternate earn mechanics. The last time they tried alternate earn mechanics, it was a disaster. It was terrible to play with, and we will see if this will be a better experiment. So the alternate set of earn mechanics are this. Primary rules. The primary rules are to pick up the urn. Rather than standing in place to channel, you now light or heavy melee the urn to pick it up. The urn is now always dropped off on top of the bridge in the middle of the map. Once dropped off, the urn will go into a depositing phase for a set amount of time depending on which team the urn favors. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds for favored, neutral, or unfavored. While in depositing phase, the enemy team can heavy melee the urn to have their team claim it and cause it to switch sides. This adds plus 1.25 seconds to that team's timer. If the urn is favored or unfavored in a comeback state, then the favored team will get plus 50% bullet resist and plus 50% bullet resist and spirit resist in a 60-meter radius around the urn while it's being carried, dropped, or deposited. So man, I don't know. Okay. So continuing with more information, other details. After 35 seconds, aggregate time held per team, the carrier will start taking 5% max HP damage per second. It was previously 45 seconds and 0.15. So it will tick you hard. You can't hold this anymore, really at all. Urn damage is now lethal. Before it was not lethal. This is a big change. You really can't hold the urn for longer than the time to go turn it in now. Like before, when the urn is fumbled, it'll wait 13 seconds if there's a player within 25 meters. However, afterwards, with this new version, it can no longer be picked up anymore and will very quickly run back towards the spawn position. However, afterwards, with this new version, it can... Okay, so if you don't pick the urn up within the 13-second window, it'll run back towards the spawn and you can't pick it up. No longer silenced while you're carrying it. You're still disarmed and movement silenced, so you can't use movement abilities, I guess, but you're capable of using other abilities. I'm not really sure what the point of that change is. It no longer grants 30% bullet and spirit resist while carrying it. Area around depositing the urn is revealed. Urn runner is also revealed as usual. The rules for favored, unfavored remains the same. 15% for the first 10, 10% for all future urns. Souls are all instant after the deposit is complete. You don't get to deny any of the urn anymore. It's probably a fine change. All rewards are the same. The last person who can contest the urn gets +3 golden idol buffs, falling back to the original carrier if nobody contested it. I don't know how to feel about the urn changes. Maybe editing Zeralorn will come back here and let you know if it feels good or bad. This is a very confusing change, and the mechanics seem kind of complicated. So I feel like this is one that is going to require some testing at a bare minimum. All right. Editing Zeralorn here. We got a couple of things that I have figured out after actually going into the game and messing around with them. So the way the new urn works is basically the pickup is the same. It's the drop-off that's the difference. The drop-off is now in the middle of the map. You can punch it. I'm going to show you guys a run up here somewhere of what it looks like when you run the urn. And it's a decent bit different. Okay. Onward after the urn. Let's get to the items, eh? Okay, items. We've added a new tier 1 vitality item, Grit. Active grants you a 200 barrier for 4-second duration. Innate grants 1 out of combat region. Cooldown 60 second. Upgrades to weapon shielding, spirit shielding, reactive barrier. These do not inherit the manual cast active. And guardian ward. Interesting. This gives you a really nice window for taking trades for just 800 souls for a vitality item. This seems quite strong off of the rip. It seems very good for early game. This might start being a thing that gets bought a lot, but we'll have to see. Resto shot, NPC healing reduced. People aren't really buying resto shot right now. Melee charge cooldown reduced. Melee charge might get bought a little bit more. Active reload lifesteal increased from 14% to 16%. This was nerfed slightly when a bunch of other lifesteal items were hit, I think like a patch or two ago. Weakening headshot now works versus NPC. This is a very nice change. This item, a lot of the other shred items, not like the disparity between shred items that work on NPCs and not working on NPCs is kind of annoying. This will make it a lot more attractive to buy weakening headshot earlier on in the game. Fleetfoot grants 6% weapon damage, and active slow resistance increased from 35 to 40%, so Fleetfoot might be a little bit stronger. Hasn't really been bought a whole lot recently. Opening rounds is getting nerfed. Spirit power +7, +4. Checks out. This item was getting bought basically non-stop. It'll probably still be bought on a lot of characters. Slowing bullets, dash distance slow reduced from -25 to -22%. So slowing bullets basically got a slap on the wrist for being what is arguably one of the stronger 1600 gun items. Mystic shots, spirit scaling increased. Maybe people will buy it again. This item is like hardly bought, to be honest. Recharging rush cooldown is increased. Probably a good thing. Tesla bullets proc cooldown reduced from 0.25 to 0.2. Tesla bullets might get bought a little bit more. It's definitely a decently sized buff. Alkfire DPS from spirit scaling increased from 0.152 to 0.2. Big buff for Alkfire. This item is already pretty strong. I think it will be purchased probably by a spirit character on your team more often. Ballistic enhancement now upgrades from Mystic expansion, and they buffed the ability range a little bit. That's kind of nice, I guess. Having it build out is nice, but it makes it a little bit more expensive, challenging to get like ballistic enhancement plus, you know, a Mystic expansion, because you can't have both those items anymore, and then building it into the greater expansion later on. So, but you can still have both greater expansion and ballistic enhancement. It's just a little bit more costly now. Weighted shots dash distance reduced from -25 to -22, and the debuff resistance increased from 20 to 22%. So they buffed weighted shots. It's already an item that comes out of slowing bullets, which is a very good item. So this is a nice little buff to weighted shots. They're buffing Shadow Weave again because people didn't really end up buying it except for on a couple of characters. The duration is increased from 10 to 13. Fire rate increased from 20 to 25. Spirit power to 20 from 20 to 25, and melee damage from 20 to 25. We're starting to get pretty good. I mean, there's still only a handful of characters that really want this, but this is looking kind of attractive. So we'll see if this ends up changing it and bringing the item back into any amount of relevance. I think they're kind of being careful with this item. Escalating resilience, max ammo increased from 30 to 35, and weapon damage increased from 15 to 18%. I haven't really seen people buy escalating resilience recently, so maybe this will bring it back into a little bit of relevance. Heroic aura radius increase from 30 meters to 35 meters. I genuinely think this is like an underrated item. I think that if you have one person build heroic aura on your team, now it even goes through veils. Like, this is a good item. This is like 17% bullet resist for your entire team, goes through veils. Having one person have it on your team, it will basically hit everyone. 35 meters is a huge radius. Sharpshooter now upgrades from high velocity rounds in addition to long range and grants 60% bullet velocity, giving more, like, I'm confused why high velocity rounds is like an item in the game instead of just buffing the character. Like, it's starting to feel like I'm a little bit confused about why they're, having all these characters with low bullet velocity. If every character with low bullet velocity is now getting like a upgrade path for high velocity rounds, it's starting to feel like this item is kind of becoming mandatory. Like, I guess extra charge on characters with charge. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. Sharpshooter long range weapon damage reduced from 70 to 60%, and now has an innate 10% weapon damage from components. So Sharpshooter is probably a lot better. It builds out a high velocity. Characters that are interested in that will probably buy that instead. I know for sure that, like, on Paradox, I'm probably buying Sharpshooter. Seems great, for example. All right, Hunter's Aura, fire rate reduced, increased from -14 to -15%. That's a very small buff, I guess. Colt Sack, weapon damage increased from 8 to 10, weapon damage wound scaling increased, and the bonus souls increased. Cultist Sack has been getting occasional buffs here. Probably still good on the people it's good on, probably still not really usable on the people it's bad on. Toxic Bullets no longer builds up for melee attacks. This item is kind of bad currently and still continues to be bad. Capacitor proc cooldown is matching Tesla Bullets, so Capacitor is probably back on the menu for characters like Bebop and Haze. Seems pretty good. Crushing Fist cooldown reduced from 7 to 5 to match heavy melee charge. Crushing Fist melee damage increased from 20% to 22%. I feel like melee has been sort of out of vogue for a while. I don't know if this will fix that. Frenzy triggered debuff resistance increased from 30 to 40%. I still don't think that they know what they're doing with this item. I don't think that Frenzy is particularly good. Making it have a cooldown to proc when you're on low life. I don't really see anybody buying this item currently. I don't know that that's going to change. Crippling Headshot works against NPCs. Excellent. Matching the weakening headshot from before, and it's been buffed to -17 to all res. Crippling Headshot seems great earlier on in the game. It will make you farm faster. Having one on your team for like mid-boss and stuff like that seems great too. Spiritual Overflow Spirit Lifesteal moved from active to innate, and now builds from Spirit Lifesteal against the innate it has. I kind of like that it builds out a Spirit Lifesteal. I think that's a really good change. It probably makes Spiritual Overflow a significantly more attractive option for a lot of characters. It kind of felt like it was in a weird no man's land before where only a couple characters ever wanted it. I think this makes it a much more attractive option for a lot of characters. Glass Cannon max health reduction reduced. I don't think people have been playing a lot of Glass Cannon recently, and with the changes to the lower overall health pools, this is probably a fine change to maybe make it more of an attractive option. Silencer spirit resistance reduced from 15 to 12%. Silencer is getting built a lot. We're in kind of a spirit meta, or at least were before this, so it's been a very strong item. And reducing the spirit, innate spirit resistance is probably reasonable. Spell Slinger cooldown reduction reduced from 6% to 5%. I mean, like, okay, small change. Healing Rite. Spirit scaling increased from 0.93 to 1.1, so it scales a little better in the late game. I figured extra regen was going to get hit. Regen reduced from 3 to 2.5, and out of combat regen increased from 1 to 1.5. So the overall regen amount is still 4, but the amount that you get during combat has been reduced a little bit. Extra regen is still a really high value item, honestly. Even with this slight shift in the amount of uptime that it has, it's just really like it's just a very good value item. Although it does maybe compete now with that new 800 vitality item that seems quite strong. Yeah, extra regen is great. You should buy it. Still great. Rebuttal parry cooldown. Parry cooldown reduced from -2 seconds to -1.75 seconds. So Rebuttal got nerfed a little bit. I guess that's one way of nerfing Rebuttal. So now instead of being parrying every 2 seconds, it's every 2.25. It's probably a fine nerf. For an 800 item, Rebuttal is pretty divisive. Debuff Reducer now grants 90 health. This is maybe makes it more attractive to buy earlier on against a team with a lot of stuns and stuff. This item felt terrible to buy. It still probably will feel kind of bad to buy unless you're upgrading it. Even when you're upgrading it, just having the component feels kind of bad. But having 90 health on it does make it a little more attractive. Return Fire buffed again from 6 seconds to 6.5 seconds on duration. I don't know. This item is like decent when it's decent and super whatever pretty much the rest of the time. We'll see. I don't know. I see some people build it and it seems fine, but not particular. Like, it seems underwhelming, and I don't know if this makes it particularly strong still. Healing Booster fixed various items and abilities not being boosted correctly. I wish they had a list of those because I would like to know the things that were changed here. Resto Locket no longer has a minimum of 1 stamina restore, and the max stamina restored changed from 4 to 3. Resto Locket has been getting kind of a beating. Still, it's the only item in the game that restores stamina, but I think this is a much less compelling option for a lot of the stamina characters. I don't know. We'll have to see. Reactive Barrier now gives you an out-of-combat region for components, which is a nice little buff. And Spirit Shielding no longer grants the movement speed buff on activation, but it also gives you 18% Spirit Res for the 8-second duration. Bullet Res lost move speed and gets some resistance for the duration. This seems kind of strong, actually. Movement speed was most of the time medium, but more defensive stats are good on these items for sure. Guardian Ward Barrier increased from 200 to 250. The cooldowns increased from 45 to 60, and it grants some out of combat regen. I mean, you're usually just using this on your allies anyways. The buff being a little better is nice. Honestly, Guardian Ward has felt sort of whatever recently, and mostly like it's just a bridge to get you to Divine Barrier. Well, Lifesteal grants 6% 6% weapon damage, which is nice. Battle Vest weapon damage increase from 15 to 18%, a little bit of buff Battle Vest. This item's already really good, still continues to be good. Both the 1600 defensive, like the Battle Vest and Enchanter's Emblem are more well-statted items and continue to be so. Dispel Magic got a cooldown nerf, which is great. This item is, I don't know what they're going to do with this item. It feels like it's a required item, like a necessary item to be in the game, but it continues to be like one of the most bought items in competitive just because of its utility. And I don't know how they make it so that it's like, it feels more fair, but it feels kind of unfair right now. Spirit Lifesteal got some more bonus health, Fury Trance, active duration increased, and it gets the 6% weapon damage from your component and some more fire rate. This might make it compelling on a couple of characters again. Fury Trance has been kind of out of meta, except for on basically Haze, and it's probably still good on Haze, and I don't know if you're buying it on anybody else. Majestic Leap gives you 50% air control, and the boon scaling is increased. People might be building this item again. It's been really popular at various times, but recently it hasn't been particularly bought. This might make it a little bit more compelling. The 50% air control is nice. It'll make you go like zoom all the way across the map probably. A buff to Fortitude. Give me some more movement speed on Fortitude, please. This item was already in a good spot, and it's even a little better now, which is great. Veilwalker buffed, 1 second to the invis, and more healing. Great. Both of these, all of these are like the zoom around a little bit, give you some healing, give you some utility, 3200 green kind of tier, and getting those buffed feels nice. Counterspell nerfed again. Honestly, I feel like you could get rid of all of the innate power that Counterspell has, and it would still be bought because it is just an item that does stuff that nothing else in the game does. Divine Barrier grants 1.5 out of combat region from your components, but nothing else changed. Item's still great when it's great. Juggernaut buffed, so another 4% to fire rate reduction, half a meter movement speed. This item got a little bit stronger. I mean, it's honestly just like a buff, or it's more of like an item you buy late game when you have enduring speed than anything else, and I don't know if this changes that. Spellbreaker gives you another 90 health from components. Cool. Indomitable Barrier scaling increased from 1.8 to 2.0. It has 2 out of combat region, increased the resistances to 10%. Indomitable was like a decent item. It was good when it's good and kind of bad otherwise, and I think this probably doesn't change that. It's still an interesting item. The base stats are starting to get pretty competitive though. But it is very expensive. Witchmail has some more Spirit Res from 2022. Probably will still only get bought sometimes. Unstoppable cooldown reduced from 65 to 60. Might make people want to buy this more. I wish people bought this more. I wish carries bought this item more. Infuser duration increased, and it gets +6 pure power from components. Infuser was already good. I'm surprised they buffed it, but it got a bit of a buff. And Vamp Burst, kind of the same thing. A little bit of a buff, and Leech got a little bit of a buff to match the components. They nerfed a lot of the lifesteal and stuff from these items, so I guess they're trying to give a little bit of power back in a couple patches ago. Golden Goose Egg is getting buffed again because this item has been historically terrible and probably will continue to be so. Permanent buff from every 100 souls to every 80, so you get more buffs from Golden Egg, and it's still probably not good enough, but we'll see. Mystic Regen duration increased. Pretty much nobody buys this unless they're upgrading it. Rusted Barrel bonus health increased. This item was already great. Continues to be great. Cold Front radius has been reduced and the damage height has been increased, so they're still trying to make it feel better to hit up and down, but I guess they wanted it's too big, so I guess that's probably a fine change. Bullet Resist Shredder no longer gives bonus health and gives you more bullet res, and now grants 9% weapon damage. I really liked the bonus health on Bullet Resist Shredder. Felt nice on a lot of characters, but I mean, this is probably a fine change. Mystic Slow buffed, gets a little bit more bonus health. Arcane Surge, they fixed some interaction bugs with different abilities. This item is constantly bugged. I don't know. I don't know if I believe that they've gotten rid of all the various interaction bugs with the item, but I guess we'll see. Surge of Power got buffed. The imbued Spirit Power from 24 to 25, very small buff. Spirit Snatch got buffed a little bit again. It's a lot of Spirit Power steal, increase from 20 to 28. This item has been not bought very often. They keep buffing it. Maybe it'll go back to being popular again. Hard to say. Decay cooldown reduced. This item's awesome. I buy it all the time. It's really funny to spam on people. And now you can spam it more. Great. 10 out of 10. Disarming hex duration increased by a little bit. Probably won't change much. Torment Pulse has some more melee resist. Radiant Regen duration increase from 6 to 7. This is a much bigger change than the component version, because this will give you a lot more sizable amount of health from that 1 second difference. So it got buffed a decent amount, I think. Magic Carpet, it's now innately grants minus 15% gravity and air control by 25%. So they're starting to play with gravity a little bit. I feel like Magic Carpet is not going to lose its status as a meme item, but like I think you could probably, like if you build this on Celeste or something, like do some really disgusting stuff with your movement. I don't know, hard to say. Arctic Blast. Slow targets now have their stamina regen frozen for the 4-second slow duration. Radius increased from 12 meters to 16 meters. Damage height increased. It no longer has the damage amp, and it has a longer immobilized duration. Honestly, this is nice. I think this damage amp was only relevant for like Calico combos, otherwise, or like shiv dashes. It was kind of hard to hit. It was really awkward. The stamina freeze is crazy strong though. 4 seconds of stamina freeze. If you played against Kelvin with his stamina freeze, you know how brutal this can feel. I think Arctic Blast got a decently sized buff from that, to be honest. Focus Lens buffed for half second of duration. This item is a dangerous one, but I guess with how popular Dispel Magic is, I don't know if this really matters. It's kind of just a check, do you have Dispel Magic button. Scourge debuff resist increased from 15 to 70%. A little bit of buff to the Scourge. Merc Magnum base bullet damage scaling increased. Merc Magnum was already very strong. Bit of a buff though. Vortex buff fixed the debuff, losing gravity modification when upgraded from slowing hex. Oh, that's nice. Let's get a little change, I guess. Overall, for items, I don't know that a ton of stuff changed. It feels like a lot of tweaking. The new tier 1 vitality item seems interesting. A lot of the stuff that was good seems good. Some of the buffs, like I think some of the Arctic Blast buffs seem impactful. The Spirit Snatch might be impactful. And some of these other lesser bot items might be a little bit more competitive, but nothing, I don't think there's anything that's reading to me as being like game breaking or crazy overpowered. The change on capacitor and the change on testable bullets might be pretty strong. It's kind of hard to say. It's a lot of potential DPS increase. Okay, heroes. Abrams Infernal Resilience tier 1 changed from 1.5 regen to 200 max health. That's a lot of max health for just one point. And tier 2 is from 200 max health to 18% melee lifesteal with 40% effective versus non-heroes. This is interesting. Hard to say if that will change the ordering on Abrams very much. Abrams Seismic Impact tier 2 increased from 0.7 seconds to 0.8 seconds for stun duration and more unstoppable duration. Abrams has been kind of in a weak spot, not very popular. I don't know if this makes it that much better. Apollo improved the hero's hitboxes. Apollo is easier to hit, less base regen. Riposte no longer automatically dashes. It now grants you a sub-ability immediately to target the hero you want to jump to for a brief duration. Can target the enemy before the parry to buffer it. Cast range is 25 meters. Riposte no longer triggers on damage auras. no longer triggers off of objective damage, and flawless advanced hitbox has been reduced by 10%. So riposte no longer automatically dashing is interesting, and you have to jump to a hero. So it's a lot like less easy to just get out of situations. It's not like it was before where riposte was primarily used as a tool to get out. It's now much different in that it seems like you have to jump to a hero with your riposte, so you kind of have to go in and not just like leave the fight, which will make it a lot easier to fight Apollo and a lot less obnoxious, hopefully. Bebop bullet damage per boon has been reduced, and exploding uppercut weapon damage reduced. Sticky bomb tier 2 increased from plus 75 to plus 85. I mean, gun bop is still going to be the standard way of playing Bebop. This might just make him feel a little less dominant. He was really, really strong. Billy health per boon increased by a lot, plus 11 per boon. That's a lot of health. And bullet damage per boon reduced. Rising ram cooldown increased. And duration increased on tier 2. And the cooldown has been reduced on tier 3. Hopefully this might make Billy feel a little more like a tank. He was kind of feeling not very tanky, so his health might be a little more competitive with some of the other frontline options. Calico, Gloom Bomb tier 2 changed from plus 75 damage to barriers to minus 5% melee resist for 5 per second per bomb stack, which is better. 75 damage to barriers made literally no sense, and basically most Calicos weren't using this ability at all, but might be a little bit more competitive. I think Calico is in like a okay spot. I don't know if this makes Calico a particularly strong choice. Celeste is easier to hit. Stamina cooldown increased. Radiant Daggers tier 2 changed from minus 18 second cooldown and 70 damage to minus 22 second and 80 damage. And Shining Wonder tier 2 increased from 50 to 70. I don't love these buffs to Celeste, but maybe these nerfs will compensate. Celeste is in a pretty good spot right now, pretty strong. I don't know that Celeste needed buffs to the damage, but it might move some of her power out of the Blight Eater and into Shining Wonder, maybe. Hopefully the easier to hit part holds true. Doorman is gonna get some nerfs. Checks out. Call Bell radius reduced from 6 meters to 5.5. Tier 3 increased to basically compensate to be the same. And the explosion damage spirit scaling has been reduced by 0.1. Call Bell inaccuracy debuff no longer diminishes from 100% to 0% over 1 second. Call Bell inaccuracy debuff reduced from minus 100% to minus 40%, lasts the full duration. So you got a longer debuff duration. I mean, I don't know. Doorman is still going to be very strong after this. This does not seem like enough to nerf Doorman. Honestly, some of it seems like a bit of a buff. Doorway close sub ability now starts on cooldown for 8 seconds. So you can't, like, boom, go through a door, close it behind you, and no one can follow you. That's nice. Like that change. It makes it so that you can't just run away for free anymore. Doorway is no longer unsilenceable. So I think that means that you can silence Doorman and he can't close the door, is my guess, which is probably fine. Fixed recent bug causing Lugger Cart not to being dispelled. I didn't know that was a bug, but I'm glad that that's fixed. Drifter Rend tier 3 no longer increases spirit scaling by 0.4, and Rend tier 3 now also deals heavy melee damage at a 0.55 scale. It's probably fine, I guess. I don't think that this makes Drifter much better. It's fine, I guess. Dynamo Kinetic Pulse tier 2 reduced from minus 18% bullet resist to minus 15%. Kinetic Pulse Spirit scaling reduced by 0.1. Quantum Entanglement tier 3 changed from dispelling non-ult debuffs to reducing the duration of non-ult debuffs by 50%. This is a good change. The tier 3 dispelling stuff is probably too strong. Dynamo probably needed a couple nerfs. Probably will fade back into being just the sort of occasional pick and not like a prominent pick option. We've got a lot of Graves changes. All right. Sprint speed increased from 1.6 to 2.2. Grasping Hands now spawns a ghoul in the base ability. Tier 3 still increases it by 1. Updated dash ranges for deadheads to be calculated from the center of Graves when they are following her. Fixed fire rate buffs for deadheads not being applied to their next attack, but only on subsequent attacks. Fixed deadheads being unable to dash through veils. Fixed deadheads being unable to dash to targets at the end of your attack range when they're in follow mode. Fixed deadheads damage taken from bullets being unaffected by fall off. Added a 0.1 second buffer duration for deadheads losing line of sight before they stop following an enemy. Fixed deadheads becoming inactive if Graves dies while they following her. Jar of Dead spirit scaling reduced from 0.35 to 0.31. They're better at dealing damage now. This line scares me. I'm scared of this line because Mina ult was like, hey, we fixed the tracking on, or we've like updated the tracking on Mina ult, and now Mina ult is insanely strong. So I wonder if these are going to be insanely strong now because they're better at targeting and getting and doing damage. We'll have to see. Graves increase speed and acceleration of deadheads only when they were falling graves, doesn't affect in combat. Fix certain projectiles. Grey Talon's Bird colliding with deadheads. Updated Graves melee to also set the dash toward target for deadheads. Bullet damage and growth reduced by 10%. Lot of changes to deadheads for Graves. Hard to say. This might end up like I think the Grasping Hands is a buff. Obviously, getting a ghoul immediately is like crazy strong. The deadhead changes might be very good. Hard to say. GT Rain of Arrows cooldown reduced from 30 to 22. Cast delay for Rain of Arrows reduced from 0.5 to 0.2. Rain of Arrows duration reduced from 7 seconds to 4 seconds. Rain of Arrows moving. It's for your, if you're not aware, the Rain of Arrows is like his jump up in the air. Moving ability in air improved. Stamina distance from -9 to +25. So you're really dashing around in the air. And Rain of Arrows weapon damage bonus reduced from +4 to +3. Tier 1 change from -14 second cooldown to +3 weapon and 30% slow for 1.5. And Tier 2 change from +5 weapon damage and 40% slow to -13 second cooldown. Total cooldown from 16 to 9. So you're kind of going up and down a lot more as GT, it sounds like, which is fine. I don't know if it really fundamentally changes the character a whole lot. Haze Fixation Tier 3 increased from 0.12 to 0.14. It's like a decent chunk. I think this got nerfed a couple patches ago. Haze getting no changes is kind of criminal, to be honest. Current Haze is quite strong and will continue to be quite strong. Holiday base bullet damage increased from 18.8 to 19.7, and health regen increased from 1 to 2. I don't know if this brings Holiday out of obscurity. This character is kind of poop right now. I don't know if that changed anything. The increased base bullet damage is probably pretty strong for laning. Character was already really strong in lane though. Don't think it's big enough to make Gun Holiday come back to the menu. We'll have to see. Infernus bullet size increase from 3 to 4, so it'll be easier to apply afterburn, and then concussive combustion tier 3 increase from 0.75 seconds, stun duration to 0.9 seconds. Infernus is also kind of in obscure realm right now. Nobody's really playing shooting for afterburn anyways. Maybe this is a bigger change than I think, and it'll actually be really strong, but yeah, Infernus is kind of whatever right now. Kelvin Frost Grenade, Damage Spirit, scaling reduced from 0.7 to 0.6, so there was a carry Kelvin I was playing with a little bit earlier this week. It'll be harder to do that, and when interrupted on Ice Path, it no longer creates an Ice Path below, instead lets him fall to the ground. This is excellent, so if you put Knockdown on Kelvin, it'll actually fall to the ground. 10 out of 10. Arctic Beam DPS Spirit scaling reduced from 0.5 to 0.38. So Kelvin kind of got nerfed specifically for like damage, which is good because I mean he's kind of supposed to be a support, right? And reducing the amount of damage that he does is reasonable. Judging by this, I would not be surprised if we got a bit of a nerf to Viscous down below. We'll see. Lash bullet damage per boon has been reduced by a decent margin. Ground strike damage per meter, spirit scaling increased by a little bit. Grapple tier 2 bonus damage no longer stacks with the stealth, but instead refreshes the duration, and tier 3 now also gives you a charge. I was unaware that the tier 2 bonus damage stacked. Probably Gun Lash is still going to be decent, and the Lash build doesn't change a whole lot. This seems like a fine change, I guess. Maybe the Ground Slam Spirit scaling will make it feel a little bit better to actually go back to playing like a Spirit-based Lash. McGinnis bullet damage per boon increased from 0.17 to 0.18. Fixed Heavy Barrage, not triggering Diviner Kevlar, and Medicinal Spectre Radius increased from 5.5 to 6. We're getting really close to like Gun McGinnis's very strong territory, so we'll see how much this will continue to add to it. There's a couple people that have been playing Gun McGinnis to some decent success, and this might continue that direction. Mina, innate minus 8% debuff resist, so debuffs are better against Mina, I guess. Fixed Rake sometimes not working with high ping. Love Bite's tier 3 increase from -4 seconds to -5 seconds. Love Bite no longer applies the flat on hit damage to abilities. Was doing 20% of its value on Nox Nostra. Nox Nostra tier 3 reduced from 1% current HP to 0.5%. I think this makes it sound like Nox Nostra got nerfed damage-wise quite a bit. Hopefully it will not just one-shot you anymore. I was playing a game of Lash today, and Nox Nostra would literally one-shot me if I didn't get out of it, and it was kind of ridiculous, so hopefully this change makes that feel a little less terrible. Mirage updated Jinspark's visuals. Moan Krill getting hit with a melee no longer knocks you up when you are burrowed, and Sandblast tier 3 increased from 1 second duration to 1.5, kind of a nothing burger. Page Bookworm tier 3, or tier 2 improved from -8 to -12 second cooldown. Rallying Charge tier 3 has some more damage. Rallying Charge now has half cooldown if it hits no allies or enemies. I guess that's fine. You probably want to be hitting people with that if you can. Paradox changes. Paradox Time Wall Tier 1 increased from from plus 2.5 to plus 3.5. Tier 3 increased from 1 charge to 2. Tier 3 charge delay reduced. Carbine Tier 3 increases from 50% max damage scaling to 55, and increased Paradox swap damage. So Paradox got some decent little buffs. I mean, Paradox was already in an okay spot, but I'll take it. I think we'll probably end up playing some more Paradox in the next few days. Pocket, Flying Cloak weapon damage duration reduced, and Affliction cooldown increased. I mean, I kind of wish they did. I don't think this is enough. I don't think this is enough. Pocket is still like crazy strong. I think Pocket is like one of the best characters in the game right now. And judging by the last 2 night shifts, Pocket's very strong, and this I don't think changes that. We got a lot of Rem changes. Goodness. Okay. Rem's Pillow Toss charge time reduced. Tier 3 does more damage. Tag Along Burst Heal now applies to secondary allies that you jump to, so Tag Along heals for a lot more. The Lingering Heal duration reduced from 3 to 2 seconds, so values are rebalanced to be the same heal, just faster. Tag Along Tier 2 bearer and item range duration and ranged effectiveness increased to 35%, and it increases the missing health heal on Tier 3 from 0.03 to 0.05 and regen per second from 0.66 to 1.0. So Tag Along got some buffs. Tag Along can be cast through veils. This is great. Reduced lockout period after ejecting from Tag Along from 1 second to 0.3. Tag Along time to fly to your ally is 50% faster. Tag Along heal duration is now displayed on the HUD as well as the health bar icon. Tag Along fixed specific ability items that could kill Rem while he's napping. Tag Along now allows friendly auras to affect Rem. Tag Along eject is no longer affected by debuff resistance and now launches upwards slightly more to prevent hitting the ground. Tag Along eject no longer briefly restricts movement abilities and inputs, and nap time now provides plus 30% damage reduction to the base ability. Okay. It looks like some decent buffs for Rem. Tag Along just got a bunch of changes to hopefully make it feel a little bit better, and then Nap Time got a little bit of a buff, I guess. 7 bullet damage growth reduced, probably good. Crit reduction increased from 35% to 55%. So 7 got kind of a buff because 7's head is huge, and taking less damage is quite strong. Shiv needs some nerfs. Let's see what we got. Slice and Dice Tier 2 reduced from minus 8% spirit resist to minus 6%. Bloodletting deferred damage cleared reduced. Bloodletting Tier 3 increased to 45% deferred to 50%. Killing Blow cooldown increased. Full rage damage bonus reduced. Killing Blow Tier 2 has basically gotten rid of that change, and Killing Blow Tier 2 now also reduces cooldown by 30 seconds. Man, I don't know. I don't know if these changes matter that much. Seems like you have to scale a little bit later to get some of the strength out of Shiv, but Shiv is still obnoxiously strong, probably. I don't know how much that matters. Silver's bullet cycle time reduced from 0.9 to 0.85. Overall DPS adjusted remain the same. Entangling Bullet no longer prevents you from jumping and mantling. I mean, that makes the like way worse. Entangling Bullet Tier 2 changed from 0.75 duration to minus 5 second cooldown. Tier 3 changed from minus 5 second cooldown and ricocheted 2 additional targets to 0.75 duration, ricocheted 2 additional targets. They definitely took some strength out of Entangling Bullet. Silver probably needed it. Lichen Curse fire rate reduced from 80% to 65%, and Lichen Curse fire rate spirit scaling increased from 0.25 to 0.45. So you got some more stuff to scale for some spirit off of, maybe. Silver needed some nerfs as well. Venator health increased from 790 plus 43 per boon to 830 plus 48 per boon. So Venator's going to be even chunkier, maybe more in line with like a Warden now, which is kind of crazy. Hexline Snapshot Tier 3 increased from 25% damage amp to 30%, and it also gets plus 1 charge. I guess I want Venator to be picked again. Victor bullet damage reduced by a decent amount, actually, and Jumpstart Tier 3 spirit scaling increased. Or if Suffering now does 50% damage to objectives. I think this is probably good. I don't think Victor was really supposed to be a gun character who had like a crazy gun. Hopefully it goes back to being more of a spirit-ish character. Let's see. Viscous actually got like no changes. Puddle Punch Tier 1 now also increases damage by 20. Tier 2 no longer increases damage by plus 30. Now it grants 40% lifesteal. Kind of whatever. Most Viscuses don't care about this, to be honest, right now. Viper Screwjob Dagger Tier 2 bowlers this stack up by a bit, and Tier 3 increases max stat by 2. Warden bullet damage reduced by a bit. Willpower Tier 3 debuff resistance now retroactively applies to debuffs existing debuffs when cast, and Binding Word Tier 2 no longer increases cast range by 12 meters. That feels a little bit nice. A little bit of a nerf to Warden. His cage is really annoying, and his bullets might have been a little too strong. Yamato Power Slash post cast time reduced from 0.4 seconds to 0.2 seconds. Power Slash Spirit Scaling increased. Oh man. Flying Slash range increased. Flying Slash Tier 2 no longer grants 20 meters cast range. Tier 3 now grants 15 meters cast range. And Tier 3 increased from 1 charge to +2. Fixed Crimson Slash not being able to hit anything if the player aimed too high or too low. And Shadow Transformation Tier 1 increased from +5 weapon damage to +7. Probably good changes. The Yamato Tier 2 20 meters cast range was super obnoxious, and Yam's in kind of a weird spot, but Yam will probably be quite strong in this patch if I had to guess. Increasing the spirit scaling on your power slash is quite good. And then we got some street brawl changes. They fixed the following enhanced items not maintaining their stats and their components, opening rounds, blah, 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 who cares? Okay, so overall, that's a lot of changes. Biggest things that I think are going to be changes here. People are going to be less tanky. Objectives have been shifted around a little bit. Timers have been shifted around a little bit. The shrine wishlist item was fulfilled. The jump pad change is going to be weird. Basically, like all of the gameplay changes are big. The soul urn is like crazy. I don't know what they're doing here. I got to go test this out after I'm done reading. Like, what the heck is going on here? I don't know. A whole bunch of item changes. Nothing seems game breaking. Seems fine. The new vitality item seems interesting. Bunch of character changes. Apollo Riposte nerfed bigly. Apollo is probably a decent amount worse. I think most of the other character changes keep them the same. Graves, question mark, could be OP now. When they do these changes where they fix like how some of the abilities work, sometimes it makes them really strong. I think the last one was... I don't know that these silver and shift changes matter that much. The Yam changes are kind of like Yam's probably gonna be good. I think that's kind of the takeaway. A lot of gameplay changes. The item and hero changes shift stuff around a little bit here and there, but there's nothing too crazy that I saw. If you liked this review of the patch, I would appreciate it if you give me a subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. If you've lasted this long, I'm live on Twitch pretty often. You can come watch me there. Would love to see you. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one, and I will see you in the next one.